A couple of months ago, I was replying to somebody on LinkedIn regarding the recent regulation of Bitcoin ATMs in Georgia. And I was attacked. Attacked, I tell you. This man who didn't know me at all replied to my post and said I was speaking from zero knowledge. I replied that I knew more than he thinks I know. I just wanted to leave it at that, but he kept sending more messages and finally asked me to connect with him. I did, but then I proceeded to give him a piece of my mind, and to my surprise, he apologized. I accepted the apology because he said he wanted to help me understand that his company actually stops scammers. Well, if you know anything about crypto ATMs, that's kind of a shocking statement. So I got to thinking, maybe this guy will come on my podcast to defend his position. He connected me with his CEO, Paul Tarantino. I said I would keep an open mind, but I let him know I don't share his enthusiasm for this product, to put it mildly. So I'm going to let you listen to Paul's arguments. Stay with me until the end, and I'll come back to you and let you know if he was able to change my mind. Here's our conversation. Okay, welcome back to this episode of Romance Scam Rebellion. Today, I have got an unexpected but very great guest to have. I've got the CEO of Byte Federal, that's BYTE Federal, and he's here to defend Bitcoin ATMs. So if any of you know me, you know that these are not my favorite things in the world, but I am willing to listen. I've got an open mind today, and Paul's going to explain to us why we should accept Bitcoin ATMs in the marketplace. So thank you, Paul, so much for coming. I appreciate your courage for coming on this program. And I know that there are a lot of things that we actually agree on as well, like happens all the way before they get to Bitcoin ATMs, right?
Correct.
But, you know, if I could remove every telecom company, every bank, every social media platform, and every scammer from this conversation, what I want to learn is what responsibility does Byte Federal still have to the person standing in front of those kiosks? So we'll get
Sure.
into that. But if you could first just tell us a little bit about Byte Federal. When did this company begin? How did you get into it? Just kind of give us some context of the background.
Sure. Yeah. So thank you for having me. And I do agree that we are like 99% aligned. And there's a lot of just little nuance where I think hopefully we can dig in today and shed a little bit of light on what safe Bitcoin ATM transactions look like. And I'll just start off by saying not all operators are created equal. And so I think if we talk about it for a few exceptions to what we would consider best-in-class operators, we might 100% agree. But
That
that
would be
being said,
something.
yeah, Byte Federal started in late 2016, and it was started by three guys in Venice, Florida. The three founders are still active in the business. A CTO and a COO, both with a deep technical background in hardware and software, and a CPA of 30 years who runs our compliance and all the financials and licensing for the corporation. I came out of a 25-year career in traditional finance. So I started early days with Payne Weber, which was bought by UBS. I spent some time with Northwestern Mutual. I spent some time with Wells Fargo. And then I spent 13 years at Canandaigua National Trust as a fiduciary investment manager. And so during that time, I found Bitcoin. And so that was 2017. And to me, Bitcoin was this enlightenment moment where I saw a financial infrastructure, a financial tool that was fair and egalitarian. It didn't care what color you were. It didn't care how much money you had. All you needed to do was access the network, and you could convert fiat, which is a debt-based money, to Bitcoin, which is a true, honest, energy-backed money. So it couldn't be printed into existence at no cost. It eliminated the risk of inflation And it really created, for the first time in human history, a fair and egalitarian money that the whole entire human race could access. So that was the enlightenment point for me. And since that point, I was always looking at how could I be a part of this network, because I thought it was so much better than the traditional financial system. So the ATM company grew from just a few ATMs in 2016 to where we sit today, 1,300 ATMs across approximately 40 states. And to get to that point, we had to be FinCEN registered money services business. We have our company has about 22 money transmitter licenses, 18 of which are required just specifically for running the ATMs in those states. We're trying to get all 50. I mean, we want to get, but we have all 50 money transmitter licenses for every state because we have other parts of our business. We have a Bank Secrecy Act employee. She worked in the banking industry for 25 plus years before joining us in 2017. She runs our Bank Secrecy Act compliance program.
What does that mean?
Yeah, okay, that's a great question. So the Bank Secrecy Act was built to create all the KYC AML processing that's required for every financial company.
And for somebody who doesn't know KYC AML, will you explain
Sure.
those too? Because I
Yeah,
there's a lot of
absolutely.
people who don't know anything about these ATMs.
Sure, absolutely. So you might be familiar with it when you open up a bank account, when you apply for a credit card, when you open up an investment account. KYC stands for Know Your Customer. So you basically are handing over lots of personal information, your driver's license number, social security number, address, your residence, birthday, email, phone number, everything that the financial organization needs to do a complete background check on you. And then AML stands for anti-money laundering. So there are certain protocols or procedures that all financial firms follow to look for what might be a money laundering type transaction or fraudulent transaction. And so those are standards that were devised under the Bank Secrecy Act in order to mandate a standard by which all financial institutions need to follow. And cryptocurrency kiosks are no different. So we have to meet all those same standards. That means filing suspicious activity reports. So if we have a transaction over $5,000, but in the ATM case, it's over $2,000, we file a suspicious activity report that notifies or creates a file where that transaction is fully reported. And then all financial institutions at $10,000 or higher do a currency transaction report or reports those full details. And so those are handed off to the regulators at federal and state levels, on a regular basis, so that they have a record of all those transactions. But we also keep a record of all transactions on our database in case there's any need in the future, or we reach out from law enforcement agency or a regulator and they want to look at all the transactions. All the transactions are stored in perpetuity.
So those are open to any law enforcement that may want to look at them.
And regulator, yeah. I mean, we are regulated by the states and by the feds. So state regulators will do annual audits, both of financials and of all the transaction data, to look for suspicious or illegal or bad activity. They can also give us like updates like, hey, you're not required to do this, but we highly recommend this. And we follow those instructions as well. And then all of our financial audits are required, just to get the licenses. So if you're not financially stable, if you're not meeting the regulatory compliance protocols by your state or the Fed, then you can't get the license to operate. And that's an ongoing process to maintain the license. Okay. And I guess I'll just end with those are the same standards by which your biggest banks, smallest banks, community banks, credit card companies, investment companies, broker dealers, and we all have to live by these rules.
Okay. And who are your main customers?
Our primary customers are what is commonly referred to as the or underbanked. So these are folks that, due to life circumstances, credit score, perhaps a criminal background even, right? If you were up to no good as a young person and you were arrested, it'd be very hard for you to get a bank account. So individuals of any different life backgrounds, bankruptcy, divorce, you name it, there's all sorts of reasons why people get put in a position where they can't get a bank. And so we call them the or underbanked. There's also a whole cohort of people that just live in the cash economy. They're paid in cash and live on cash. And so those individuals, unfortunately, don't have access to all the things that we enjoy. They don't have the bank account, so they don't have a debit card. They can't get a credit card. So they can't do online payments. They can't do online shopping. They eat simple things like paying your utility bill, your phone bill, right? That they're driving around town paying in cash. And so for them, Bitcoin becomes an on-ramp into a financial infrastructure that's digital. So once you buy Bitcoin from there, you can buy, with your Bitcoin, you can buy cards that allow you to spend in the digital economy. And yeah, so they're gift cards or shopping cards. Like you could buy Starbucks, Amazon shopping cards and things like that with Bitcoin. And then from there, you can function like you had a credit card.
You can buy Amazon and Starbucks with Bitcoin?
Yeah. You don't shop directly. You buy a card that is in like an Amazon card so that you can shop on Amazon.
With Bitcoin.
Well, they're converting the Bitcoin to dollars on your behalf.
Okay. So you can't.
Yeah.
For
Right.
things. Okay.
Yeah. You could trade the value for a dollar value on that card.
But then why even go through the process of buying Bitcoin if you've got to exchange it back to cash to buy something? That's what I don't understand.
Because they have no way to get that physical cash into that card.
Can't they just go to the store?
Yeah, they could buy a gift card at the store as well.
So here's what I don't like about that explanation. You're talking about the people with the least amount of income in this country who are struggling to pay their bills. And you're telling me that this percentage of the population is coming to Bitcoin ATMs to purchase Bitcoin when
No,
they
I'm
don't
saying
have
that's,
any extra money.
yeah, no, I'm saying that's one of the things they do. The other thing they're doing is they're buying it for their own investment purposes. So
Then
you have
they don't have enough money to live on.
that's a great question, right? What do our transactions look like is really what you're getting at. So our average transaction is $300. So these aren't, large money laundering transactions. And, the first transaction is about $150 on average. So that's like a test transaction. Across 80% of our customers, it's a $300 transaction that's happening roughly every 24 days on average. So repeat buying. If you're a customer, you're registered, fully identified, and you're repeat buying small transactions, it looks a lot more like dollar cost averaging into an asset than it does, or into a savings vehicle, than it does, I'm going to send $20,000 to the scammer. So first of all, you have to understand too, is that every one of these people that comes to our ATM, when you first look at our ATM, there are 3 big stickers on the ATM warning you of fraud, telling you that if you've been sent to this ATM to do a transaction on behalf of somebody else, that it's a scam. Once you get into our platform, the first thing you're going to be asked to do is give us your driver's license, your phone number. And we're going to take a picture of you. So we fully identify you as a person on that driver's license. And we're going to pull your social security number and make sure all the data on your social security number is also the same data on that driver's license. So we complete that full KYC look at you and make sure that you are the person really registered. From there, you now have to go through our fraud prevention and scam warnings. And we move the buttons around on the screen so you can't be coached. You can't always answer yes or always answer no. The questions are reframed, the buttons are moved around so that it makes it difficult for somebody to coach you. Additionally, if you're in front of our ATM on the phone, our AI will pick that up, your transaction gets flagged, and you're called by customer support. So we have a bunch of different techniques in place to make sure that you are who you are, that you're doing this investment or you're buying this Bitcoin for your own investment purposes, and that you haven't been sent there or you're not being coached. Then on top of that, if you're 60 years or older, we are going to immediately have our trained U.S. customer support staff call you live, recorded, while you're standing there at the ATM. We're going to go through all the known scams. We're going to ask you all the fraud and scam prevention questions again live. We're going to ask you, are you 100% certain today that you are not being scammed? If you cannot answer those questions properly, or you're not confident that you're not being scammed, we do not let you put any money in the machine. So we're doing everything we can to stop any fraudulent activity, any use of the ATM that's not geared towards your own personal use before any dollars get put in that machine.
So anybody 50 or older, you don't scrutinize like you do the 60-year-olds.
No, exactly. 60 and below, or 59 and below, we're reliant upon all that on-screen intervention. You don't get a live call.
Okay. But I think, to me, because I've seen the on-screen interventions, and to me, it's more like it's a safeguard for you more than it's a safeguard for me. So you can say, hey, we warned them, it's all on the screen, so you can't come after us for this.
Well,
so that way,
we don't look at it that way. We look at it as that we're trying to slow down this process, right? A lot of the fraud takes place because people are put into almost a hijacked state of fear, or I have to act quick, or something bad's going to happen. The very fact that they have to go through like this long 15-minute process of registration and waiting for approval, right? Where there's no dollar amount on our machine that you can transact without going through this process. Some of the other operators have allowed.
And you're talking the 60-year-olds now, right?
No, everybody.
Oh,
everybody. Yeah, everybody. The 60-year-old, the only delineation on 60 plus is the live phone call. But so the idea is that people need to slow down and think. First of all, if a scammer called you, right, and said, go to this ATM, first of all, you got to leave the house. You got to go get cash if you don't have it on you. So you're probably going to the bank, or you're going to another bank ATM. You're withdrawing cash. That's time.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're got to go find the ATM. Search through Google, find an ATM near me. You're going to go to that ATM. You're going to go inside. Now, if you're lucky enough to hit a Byte Federal machine, you have to give us all your personal information, scan your driver's license. You've got to have downloaded a Bitcoin wallet, because we can't send it anywhere. You have to have some sort of wallet. You got to go through all the fraud disclosures. You've got to wait for our system to come back and say you're valid and you can transact. If you're 60 or older, you're getting that phone call. Right. So this is at least 15 minutes, not including the driving and going getting the cash. But this is all time for that person to slow down, pause, reflect. Like, you're going through all these steps to do this transaction. And we know for a fact that some of those people are being scammed. And through our live calls, when we started tracking that data, right? I guess I should say, for anybody under 60, where we don't do the live phone call, we see people just register and stop and go away and never come back. How many of them stopped because they just didn't like how long it was taking, or they didn't like the fact that they have to give us so much personal information, or they didn't like the fact that just the way our interface worked? We'll never know, but many of them just stop and never complete registration. The people that we get to talk to through that verbal process and recording that conversation, we discovered when we first started doing this we started doing the calls in 2021 and started recording the data in 2024. Once we started recording that data, we discovered 84% of those people had either told us, yes, I think I'm being scammed, or said they weren't sure they might be being scammed, and they did not do a transaction. So we know that scammers were sending them to our ATMs. And we know that we prevented 84% of those people from ever completing a transaction. Is that 100% prevention rate? We can't say for sure, because there's no telling if somebody answers everything right and says, no, I'm not being scammed. I'm 100% sure I'm not being scammed, but they still are. You can never know for sure. But we do know that the data says 84% of those people just said, well, I'm not sure, or yes, I am. And therefore they were not allowed to do a transaction. And then the only thing I'll add to that is that, one of the things that I guess is frustrating for us is that we see how this has changed the lives for so many people. We have great data based on these small transactions where between 2018 and 20, we had about 4,000 customers. We tracked all their transactions, added them up. On average, they bought about 4,000 of the Bitcoin over that 6-year period. The average transaction size was $56 per transaction. So these are small transactions accumulating over many years to $4,000 worth of Bitcoin that they had bought. But at the end of that period, it was worth $13,000. So there is a very valid use case of people making small, repetitive transactions with great financial results. And, Bitcoin has been growing at a compounded annual growth rate of 40% a year. So that beats every other financial asset that's ever existed. This is one of the reasons why I was so impressed by Bitcoin. It's the programmatic structure of it that increases your savings rate. And so for very, very small dollars, you can make a significant difference in your life. A friend of mine buys regularly $30 a day of Bitcoin. And that 30,
machines?
no, she does not use our machines. She has a checking account. She's plenty of money, but she set it up to just buy $30 a day. And between 27 and now, she's accumulated well over $1 million worth of Bitcoin. She hasn't put $1 million in. You can add up how much she's put in, but you can do quite well by just repetitively saving in this vehicle.
So those using the Bitcoin ATMs, you're stating those are the people who earn the least amount of money in the US. And if you took away all the scams that get through, would those small $56 amounts be enough to sustain your company?
Well, that's what we've been doing since we started doing these calls right? So we went from a few hundred ATMs to 1,300 ATMs between 2021 and today. And those are the transaction data I gave you is from real-time usage.
Mm-hmm.
We have on the platform at any given time about 2,000 live, or I should say, active users of the ATMs. Throughout the whole history of the company, there's a list of about 100,000 users, somewhere between high 90s and low 100,000 users that have ever registered on our platform out of the 350 million Americans, right? So very small user base, an even smaller active user base making these small transactions. And we are doing our best to weed out the fraud and weed out the scams. And we believe that we have it whittled down to a very, very high percentage of users that are buying for their own investment purposes. We're never going to be 100%. Nobody in this world of financial fraud prevention is ever 100%. But we do see that we have good results. Our customers have a good experience and they get great benefits of Bitcoin, and they get the benefit of interacting on a system that is aligned with protecting them.
Okay. So is that the only way that you make your money is through these small transactions, or is there other ways that you make transactions or money?
Yeah, we're launching new payment products. As of yet, they don't make money. So 100% of our revenue has come from the ATM business.
Do your ATMs allow withdrawals or only deposits?
We started with two-way machines. Currently, we have no two-way machines active. They just it's like a Bitcoin vending machine, except you do the full registration, but all they do now is just sell Bitcoin or crypto. When we started, we allowed withdrawals. What was happening is no one was using them. And the two-way cash feeders are a maintenance nightmare. And so since nobody was using them, we stopped installing them.
But with so much fraud going on, wouldn't that, well, let me ask you, do you allow refunds if you find out somebody has put cash in your machine and it's then found out that it's been fraudulent?
Yeah. So
refunds?
if there was if something went wrong on our end, we'll refund them the money.
But if nothing's
If,
gone
if,
wrong on you,
but a refund, right. Because if a refund means the property is returned, right? So if you go to Home Depot, you buy a doorknob, it doesn't work, you can return it. Home Depot gets the doorknob back, you get your money back. Alternatively, if you buy that doorknob at Home Depot and you're in the parking lot and somebody threatens you and steals the doorknob, you can't go in and get the refund. That's what a refund is. And so we're focused on what can we do upfront to prevent anybody from being taken advantage of. We're going to do the best we can to try and prevent people from doing a transaction on behalf of a scammer or because they were defrauded. That's the best we can do. But a refund is not what a lot of the current regulation that's just being passed recently. They call it a refund, but it's not really a refund. What that really is somebody, let's say somebody buys $1,000 worth of Bitcoin. They pay us the 20% fee. So they're out $1,200 to buy the $1,000 worth of Bitcoin. And then a week later, they discover I was scammed. I thought I was sending this to Microsoft to fix my computer. And instead it went to somebody in some foreign country and my computer was never fixed. If we then were to pay the $1,000 of Bitcoin back that we had to buy, so we spent $1,000 to buy the Bitcoin for them. Now we have to give it back. Now we're $2,000 loss. Plus we had to return our fee, the other two. So we turned that $1,200 fraudulent transaction into a $2,200 fraudulent transaction because it was the fraud was pushed onto us by the legislators. We believe that the right approach is to mandate other ATM companies to follow similar protocols and procedures that we follow. It's like, let's turn these protocols and procedures that we're doing voluntarily into legislation. So we bring the whole industry up to a higher level so that everybody in the industry, no matter what ATM you go to, you have the same protection. That is going to be more proactive. That's going to stop the transactions for the most part from ever taking place in the first place. And then we don't increase the size of the fraud by just passing the loss along to the operator. Now, if the operator's at fault, if the operator's purposefully laxed, if the operator is aiding or assisting in these frauds in any way, then of course the full force of the law should come down on them. And that should be taken care of.
So when you find out somebody has been defrauded, what happens to the person on the other end? Do you block those wallets so that they can't use your service again?
Yeah. So if somebody reports that they've been defrauded, they are automatically blocked from our system, so they can't use it again. The wallet is flagged. So if we ever see that wallet pop up anywhere else in our system, that transaction gets blocked. We didn't talk about this earlier, but I should bring it up just so everyone's fully aware. Before anybody does any transaction, they have to give us a wallet address where they want the Bitcoin delivered. We run that through Elliptic, which is a chain analysis tool that actually our regulators recommended to us. And what that does is allows us to see if that wallet has been used in fraud in the past, or it's connected to known fraud wallets by humps. So you can set the system up to look backward and forward to see if it's got connection to other fraudulent wallets. It also shares customer purchase data when that Bitcoin goes to, say, if that Bitcoin goes to an exchange, then it'll know from whose wallet and who that person is that this exchange now received these funds. So it helps law enforcement track these funds through the chain of custody on the blockchain. So if somebody is defrauded, they report a scam, we're going to block it. We're not going to let them do any more transactions on our network. Additionally, if we have all the record, we have all the data, the blockchain data, our transaction data, law enforcement requests that, we forward it to them with the whole history of the account. We forward them the live recorded calls if they're 60 and over. And so we are active participants in law enforcement when it's requested. Otherwise, our main goal is to make sure that transaction is securely, or that all that personal information is held, in a secure format to prevent cyber criminals from stealing it. So, we're doing all the same things that all these other financial institutions are doing as well.
Now, when I was defrauded, I there was a wallet that I had been sending money to, and I believe at the time I was sending it on Cash App. It seemed like it would not allow for bigger transactions, but I think that I tried to send $200 once, and it came up and it said, "Stop. This wallet has, it may be tied to scam, but it says, are you sure you want to go ahead?" And at the time, being manipulated into thinking that it was okay, and told to be okay by the guy defrauding me, it still allowed me to put that money through. When you say it's blocked, do you mean it's blocked, or do you mean that there's just a warning sign out there telling people this?
No, Byte Federal blocks you from accessing our platform. We can't shut that wallet off that you want to send it to, but we can shut you off.
Wait,
So
so they can defraud somebody else, but just not me.
we have no control over that wallet.
You told me that you blocked the wallet.
No. We
Fraudulent wallet.
scan the wallet. If we see that the wallet has been involved,
right?
just like you got the warning from Cash App, they did some sort of scan on that wallet, and Cash App discovered that wallet was used or connected to fraud by any number of hops, whatever their standard was.
Mm-hmm.
But they still let you go through with the transaction if you wanted to. What I'm telling you is Byte Federal will not let you do that transaction. So that's a corporate decision that we do, where even though you may want to still do that transaction, we will block it. We will not let it go through. We won't let you put cash in the machine. Cash App made the decision to let you make the decision. That's a corporate decision, right? And so they let you do that. Byte Federal doesn't do that. These are voluntary corporate decisions on what you think you want to allow your customers to do.
Why wouldn't you be able to block that fraudulent wallet on the other end?
Yeah, because that wallet,
that gives this scammer multiple other people, because he's not just targeting.
Yeah, no, 100%. I totally see your point, but we don't own that wallet. We don't own that scammer's wallet.
But you could block that wallet, just like you could block me.
Well, yeah. Oh, okay. Maybe I'm misunderstanding you. We do block that wallet on our platform.
Yes.
So no, okay. I thought you meant go out globally and just shut down that wallet. I'm sorry, my bad. No, we do. We're blocking you from doing the transaction, and then we're blocking that wallet. So if some other customer shows up on our platform that wants to send to that wallet, they will not be able to do that.
Okay, that's what I.
But it's just, yeah. I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. It's only blocked on our platform, and it's blocked, and you as the customer also get blocked for trying to have sent to that wallet. So I would
never be able to send to a different wallet.
No, you're not allowed back on our platform ever.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Good to know. So when you started this company, what have you seen from 2017 to 2026 as far as how frauds are progressing on your platforms?
Yeah, AI has made a huge impact.
But that's just recently. What about 2017 to
22? Of course, I wasn't with the company then. I didn't start with the company until 2021. So the early days, I can't directly speak to, but I would imagine that they were just new scripts with a similar type of creation of urgency, fear. I have to have this done now. I know a lot of these scammers will use techniques where they make you feel like you created a loss for them and they need to be refunded immediately, or they'll get fired. So they create that affinity and please help me. But the scripts changed all the time. But now with AI, what's very concerning is that we have caught people with AI. We've seen that they've altered their identification that we're scanning. AI. So AI has created problems, but it's also helped us. We're also able, we hear, it's not on our platform, but we hear a lot about AI voice generated robocalls,
Mm-hmm.
where you think you're talking to somebody you know. We've seen, I shouldn't say seen, we've heard of very, very good replications in regards to digital identification. We know that it's very, very cheap to go in the black market these days. I should say the dark web these days, and buy individual identification. I've heard as low as 50 cents or $1 to buy somebody's full credentials. Um, but on the positive side, we've been able to use AI to facially match the picture we're taking of you at the kiosk with your driver's license or passport photo. That's been fantastic value for us. We've been able to use AI to monitor our transactions to look for structuring or what looks like somebody like, let's say somebody is doing, our average transaction is $300, but let's say that person's doing a $300 transaction 7 times a day at 7 different kiosks. Our AI is going to pick that up. This user looks like they're structuring something to make it look like a small transaction when really they did over $2,000 today on our network, making it look like several small transactions. And so we need to file a suspicious activity report on them. So AI is really improved a lot of the real-time data collection on our end. But on the outside of that, where these scams start, which for the most part is in the telecom, social media, text, email space, that's where the bulk of these start.
Here where there's chat available.
Yeah, there's a huge AI has exponentially expanded the risk profile there because they can make the fraudster seem much more real than they would have in the past. And so I think they've become much more potent in their ability to scam people, make people believe that this is a trusted communication, while simultaneously on our end, it's allowing us to find fraud at a larger scale across our network faster and report it more accurately. Then we've discovered, like I'll give you some instances, like with the AI scanning, we discovered, oh my God, we've got 3 customers, 3 different states, 3 transactions over the course of a month, but they all sent to the same wallet. Boom. All those people are going to get blocked because they're being scammed, whether they know it or not. Like why are they all sending to the same wallet? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that kind of like deep research into the network of activity that AI can make those connections rapidly, where an individual might see somebody do the transaction in Chicago and another person do a transaction in California and not make the connection that this long string of number of letters is the same wallet address.
Do you have a support center that somebody can call if they have problems or questions?
We do. Every one of our machines has the customer support number prominently displayed. It's a US based customer support staff that we train. So you're not being sent off to an entity that's not working directly. Yeah. Or not, the main thing is that these are people that have been with us for years that we train. So we get to coach them on the questions they need to ask, and they're held accountable for the questions that they need to ask and the answers, and how we're recording those calls and reviewing them so we can hold them accountable for the results of those calls. That makes a big difference.
7, or is it certain hours during the day?
We offer customer support 24/7. The US live customer support staff is like 20 hours instead of 24. We have a small 4-hour window where we have offshore support, which basically then is just to get people to the live customer support when it turns back on. So it's a lot of times those suspicious transactions or things that don't seem right, they're just not allowed to transact until they get to talk to live customer support.
Okay. And as far as your fees, do you post what your actual fees are on your
We
machine?
do. Yeah.
Or do you just, because like with Bitcoin Depot, it says on the machine there's a $3 transaction fee. Well,
Yeah.
but then they don't tell you about, the
Yes.
other percentage. Do you
100%.
tell customers about the other percentage?
Yeah. We've done multiple things there. Number one, we don't do a transaction fee and a blockchain fee and then the markup. We've got rid of all fees except for the markup. So that's the only fee we charge. and it's fully disclosed to you. So if you come to the machine, you say, I want to buy Bitcoin, and Bitcoin's trading at $60,000 a coin. Then we say Bitcoin's trading at you're going to pay 60,000 plus our 20% markup. And then we show you the price you're going to pay. And that's fully displayed. It also gets sent to you on your digital receipt or printed receipt if that's required by law. So everything is displayed up front before you do the transaction. There's no confusion because there's only one fee. There's no hidden charges, and there's only one fee, which is just the markup.
Okay. But why wouldn't somebody, I know that there are people listening who think that crypto ATMs are just fueling these scams. Can you talk to us about that and just tell us what you think they're missing there?
Sure. So, I mean, if to be feeding, like it's talking about like us feeding the scammers this flow of business kind of thing. Is that what you're getting at?
Well, it's just that people question why you exist, I
Okay.
guess.
I guess there's a few things come to mind. First, I'll push back on that button and say, we exist for the and underbanked to get access to Bitcoin. If you want to use cash to buy Bitcoin, there's no other way to do it. Besides,
There's plenty of ways.
No, I said cash. I mean, physical cash, paper.
Okay.
If you want to use physical paper cash, because either you don't have a bank account or you don't want to use your bank account, whatever your reason is. But if you want to use physical cash, you have two options. You can go to a trusted Bitcoin ATM company, or you can meet somebody at a coffee shop and do a transaction with them personally. We'll call that the Bitcoin garage sale transaction. So that's it. Those are your two options. If I have to make the choice of meeting somebody I don't know or doing a transaction with a trusted counterparty, I would choose the trusted counterparty. And that's the way I would buy my Bitcoin with cash. So that's number one. It's safer. Number two is that these underbanked people that don't have these financial services now have a tool where they can beat inflation. They can invest in Bitcoin with cash. Cash loses purchasing power 7% a year. Bitcoin's been going by 40% a year. It's easy math. In regards to like us, like being aligned or feeding business to these scammers, we spend over $1 million a year on licensing and regulatory compliance. Why would anybody spend $1 million a year and spend all this time and effort with our customer support staff to try and prevent fraud? Why would we block customers? Why would we do full KYC AML from before you put any money in our machine if we were a feeder for fraudsters? It makes no sense.
Don't all Bitcoin ATMs have to comply as well? It's not just you.
Right.
Have to go through that.
Yeah, but the law allows a certain dollar amount to be done with just a phone number. So if I go get a fake, no, it depends on, that's all changing in real time, right? That's all changing in real time. But yeah, there's many states, even today, that still allow up to a $2,000 transaction with just a phone number. We never did that. We always thought that was too lenient. So these ATM companies are not breaking the law, but they're not doing everything they can to fight fraud. And that's why we think the bigger issue here, or the solution here, is not banning Bitcoin ATMs, because when you ban Bitcoin ATMs, you're getting rid of those bad actors, but you're also banning the companies like us that are doing everything we can to prevent fraud, that are the good actors that can provide a real service to people who want it. So the ban has the implications of taking out the good actors just as much as the bad actors. And we think we'd be far better off, we'd have far less fraud if the legislation was drafted in a way that supported the good actors from doing proper protocols. And let's turn those protocols into the law. Let's set a standard by which anybody who wants to operate in your state has to meet these standards. And a ban is not a standard, right? A ban just moves the fraud from what would have happened at the crypto ATM to happen at the gift card or wire fraud or cash by mail or PayPal or Venmo or Zelle, which, by the way, the numbers in everything I just mentioned is giant compared to crypto ATMs. The amount of fraud, just reported fraud in those other categories, is enormous compared to Bitcoin ATM in each individual one. So, I think crypto ATMs last year, they suspect about 330 million in fraud. JP Morgan alone had 3 billion in reported fraud.
Well, yeah, I mean, fraud will always exist, no matter whether
Yes.
crypto ATMs are there or not. But,
Right. So,
you know,
so that's why I think, blocking good crypto ATM providers or banning them from your state just is going to move the scammer's point of attack to a different vehicle.
so
I think, I think a lot of um, Bitcoin ATM fraudulent activity is a drop in the bucket compared to total fraud throughout the financial system. And that's frustrating because we're doing everything we're supposed to do by law, plus we're doing these voluntary options, and we're being banned when we don't see the gift card rack in every grocery store in America being banned. Zell's not being banned. They did 870 million. They were complicit in 870 million fraud transactions. That was a lawsuit that was brought by the Consumer Financial Protective Bureau against JP Morgan, Bank of America, all these big banks that have Zelle embedded in them. And that, was, they paid no fines. Nobody's banning Zelle. It was a nothing burger, but you could sit there on your couch, get a phone call and Zelle somebody money. There's no stop. There's no pause. There's no refund. There's no nothing. And they're not being banned.
I can't speak to that because I have not looked into that. So I'll
No.
just have to.
Well, it's,
Uh,
yeah, I can give you well, if I find it, but anyways, when I find it, I'll let you know, because you can look up the case online. It's very, very interesting. Yeah. So it's the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau versus Early Warning Services, Bank of America, JP Morgan, Chase, and Wells Fargo. And, which represents about 3/4 of the total Zelle network activity. And it was 870 million of fraud.
but that doesn't make your fraud any better just because of
No.
less.
No, what I'm saying is it's far bigger numbers, and there's not a peep out of anybody to what can we do to ban Zelle.
Yeah, I would be really
I
surprised.
haven't heard that anywhere. Well, I haven't seen a state ban Zelle or a bank yet.
But they're okay. Anyway, that's a different story. But like the Iowa Attorney General, they
Yeah.
did an investigation a couple of years
Uh-huh.
ago, and they found that 94 to 98% of all of the Bitcoin ATM use was
Yeah.
fraudulent. So
Yeah.
it makes it hard for people like me to think that you're capturing much, there's got to
So
be a lot of fraud that's getting.
I think there's a lot more to that statement than what you said. So TRM Labs, which is a chain analysis company, did their own investigation through chain analytics, looking at the blockchain.
Mhm.
They estimated that 98.8% of the crypto kiosk transactions were legitimate. So complete opposition. Yes. Third-party research. It's documented, by the way. Anybody listening, please visit bytefederal.com/fraud-prevention. You'll have multiple downloads there where you can dig into the research that's all supported by third-party sources. All the sources are documented. You can go dig in, linked. They're all linked. You can dig into them and look at the research yourself. TRM Labs is quoted in there. Their research said only 1.2% of crypto transactions were illegitimate. So there's a huge gap, right, between the report that you stated and what TRMs is stating. From my understanding of that report is that's based on people, or a census that was done on people who reported fraud or were involved in crypto ATM specific fraud. And so in calling those individuals, yes, they're going to find a very high propensity that those frauds are real. I don't know, and I haven't seen the full details of how they did that census. I would love for those details to be released so we could compare apples with apples, but we have two totally different sets of data that tell us two totally different things. And I know the TRM lab data is on the blockchain and you can see the data in the blockchain. I don't know exactly how Iowa came up with those stats. But I think it's worth questioning when you have such a huge discrepancy between the two. So I would say that. And then the other thing I would say is that, mainstream banking channel, just a mainstream banking channel in and of itself. And this is just reported fraud. This is where customers actually reported the fraud.
Mhm.
This is not a census. This is actual reported fraud. Debit cards and banking channels were 39% of fraud losses, checks 30%, ACH payments 9%, and credit cards 5%. And that's from the Federal Reserve in 2024. But because of that reported scam, I think if you called those people directly about their scam, you'd find out that 90% of those people say they're scammed. And I mean, it would make sense, right? So I'm not really certain that the data that you're referring to is, I just think there's more details to the way they came up with that data that needs to be looked into.
And so I heard you say that that 1.2% on a previous podcast. And so I went
Yeah.
to PRM
Mhm.
and here's the whole paragraph, which I mean, the article that I'm looking at says rate of illicit activity at crypto ATMs is double that of overall crypto industry. And the particular part that you're talking about, the whole paragraph says, according to TRM, crypto ATMs have processed at least 160 million USD in illicit volumes since 2019. We all know that that's gone way up. Last year, illicit volumes in the cash to crypto industry stood at 1.2% of total volume, double the 0.63 for overall crypto ecosystems. So even though what you're saying sounds tiny, it's double for what
The
the
overall
overall crypto
crypto.
ecosystem is, right?
Right. Yes, it is, but it's in line with the rest of the financial industry. So what we're saying is, what you're saying to me is that the online crypto industry is doing a fantastic job, and the Bitcoin kiosk industry is in line with the rest of the financial world, which from all reports that I've seen, the rest of the financial world, which includes wire fraud, check fraud, debit card fraud, PayPal, Zelle, Venmo, et cetera, and credit card fraud, is somewhere between 2 to 3 annual fraud. So what you're suggesting, or what that data suggests to me, is that when you have a blockchain, which keeps a permanent record of fraudulent activity, you're going to have less fraud because it makes law enforcement, it gives them the capability to track that fraud right there. I mean, there's a reason why the U.S. Department of Justice was able to go after and seize, I think it was 120,000 Bitcoin in Cambodia, because there was a massive fraud ring there.
Right.
There was continually funneling off Bitcoin and other crypto from these kind of scams. They used the blockchain to track that data, to track those transactions. You follow the transactions to wallets, you figure out what IP address those wallets are connected to, and you start to triangulate the fraud by IP address and internet provider services. And they made the attack and they took down that fraud ring because of blockchain. So blockchain, by its nature of leaving a permanent trail to follow the money, is inherently better to fight crime than checks and wires and credit cards, et cetera. Now we live in a particularly difficult space, more difficult than the exchanges, because we do collect cash and then we have to move that cash into a digital asset on the blockchain. So yeah, we probably have a higher rate of fraud than the exchanges do squeaking through, but it doesn't mean TRM's data is wrong or that we are not doing a good job. And I would say 1.2, 1.5% is still better than the traditional financial industry. And all the data I've looked at points at that.
So you, along with some other Bitcoin ATM operators, are under investigation in Missouri. Can you tell
Mhm.
us what that's about?
But I can't speak about it. We're providing all the data we have that they've requested. I would also say that this is not abnormal. We get these kind of requests all the time. We've done it for multiple states. So we have a process in place to share that data privately and securely.
And are you, I mean, what's going on in the legislatures? They have
Oh, I
lobby.
wish we had a lobbyist.
You don't have a
Um,
lobbyist? Because I
no,
know,
we're not nearly big enough.
okay, I actually went
Yeah,
to
but
Byte.
CoinFlip and Bitcoin Depot did have lobbyists. And we never did or ever wanted to participate with those organizations because we don't believe they're a best in class operator. We don't want to have our process and our protocols at all intertwined with theirs because they're completely different set of standards.
Okay.
Um, there are three of us in the industry, much smaller, small and mid-tier operators. We're all sort of settled on very, very similar protocols, very similar fraud prevention rates, and we all have very similar sized networks. Because it's hard to become that big unless you're letting a lot of people transact on your network. Now, maybe they know something we don't know. Maybe they're able to do everything we're doing and I'm not aware of it, but we've tried like really hard to get as big as possible, but do it the right way. And we've talked to other operators our same size or doing similar things, and they tend to agree with us. It's, we are a good size small business,
You know what's going on with CoinFlip? Are they having troubles similar to Bitcoin Depot, or are they still okay?
I don't know. I think they're okay.
Because they were with
I think Bitcoin Depot, might have had a significant amount of debt. And so when their volumes dropped, they couldn't hold on any longer. I don't think CoinFlip has those problems. Um, or, we just don't like the way they do their business. And we don't believe in the long-term, what the long-term, capability of that model. We want, and we want to stay with our families. None of us want to get in trouble. We want to keep our customers safe. We want to be safe. We want to just operate a legal, upstanding business and do the best we can. And
you're in a
so we don't want to associate. We don't want to associate with people that we don't think are doing the best they could do. So we've been asked by them to participate in certain um, legislative teach-ins and things like that, and like even a lawsuit they're having in Tennessee where Bitcoin ATMs are banned, and we just wouldn't participate because we didn't want our name associated with their process, because we do operate completely differently. This is not a one shoe fits all process. I mean, so many of the things that we talked about today are voluntary, and there's only a few of us in the industry that do it because we think it's the right thing to do. And so to muddy ourselves by saying, sure, we'll jump in your lawsuit and yeah, we'll ride on your lobbyist coattails, would lessen the message and the impact we're trying to have, which we really want to sit down with lawmakers, legislators in every state, AARP, anybody interested in this issue, and share with them all of our data, all of our transaction history, the protocols and processes that we put in place that stop fraud, and then focus on the real point of entry of fraud in the United States, which is how do we stop the 52.8 billion robocalls, of which 48% of the elder fraud in America came over a phone call, where that's the largest loss size is coming through that phone call. And how do we prevent these front doors that are unlocked? How do we get the states to start to regulate that entry point for the fraud, which will then, when it meets the financial infrastructure and everything that we do across the whole financial system with KYC, AML, fraud prevention, it'll have a bigger impact. because we will have sifted out as many scammers or fraudsters as possible at the front door. And that's where we see a huge blind spot. It's easy to attack a small company like ours and our peers and put us out of business. The hard part, where you'll have real impact on fraud prevention, is going and looking at telecom, internet, social media, and figuring out, how do we validate that these people these people are legitimate and that their content is legitimate. I don't know how many times I watch a YouTube video, and the ads popping up during the video are obviously scams, financial scams, or the 20 voicemails I have a day, where there might be one good voicemail recording in there and the rest are all scams. And then the text messages, and then the email scams. It's just endless bombardment, right? And if I was in a position like my parents, who didn't grow up with this kind of activity, I mean, my parents call me all the time, hey, this, that, I got this phone call, I got this email, and it's like, those people will never call you. They're not calling you. Like, they'll send you mail, and then we'll check that mail through AI, and we'll make sure that's not a part of a scam program. Like, you don't have to act now. You don't need to worry. Like, just, they will get a hold of you for real if there's really a problem.
Right.
And it's just that slow down, rethink. Nothing is as urgent as you think it is. If the power goes off, we can pay the bill and get the power turned back on. Like, you'll be all right for a day. Like, this is, we are all bombarded. We are completely aligned with AARP and the lawmakers about stopping fraud. We just think that it would be valuable if you invited us to the table to have that discussion, because we have the transaction data. We have the real world working insight on how to do it. And then let's all focus our resources on preventing as much fraud as possible from coming in the front door, so that it makes all of our lives better and we have a better outcome.
Yeah. I do think that there is reasons to look further at different parts of the scam ecosystem.
Yeah.
But those are pretty powerful people. And how do you deal with that? I don't think anybody's figured that out.
Yeah. The truth is hard, right? The truth is hard. And we have experienced this when you try and talk, or you try and make the FCC more responsible. They since 2014, the FCC has filed, I think it's 214 million. Trying to remember all these numbers off the top of my head, but like 214 million in fines. They've collected $6,700. There's also legislation in place that would completely remove their ability to issue any fines, even though, I mean, what's the point? Their fines are obviously useless anyways.
Yeah.
$100 and I can get a phone number. I can give you, there are proven known cases. Look up Mario Cop, do some research on the Mario Cop scam. It was a Hilton. They got a phone number with a Hilton hotel address in Canada. They used an AI generated Joe Biden voice to tell New Hampshire voters not to vote in the primary. So nobody monitored the call to intent. Nobody would like, this is a hotel. That's weird. And, and they used Bitcoin to buy the phone number. So the telecom provider took from a bad address, a currency where they had a blockchain where they could have inspected wallet addresses and they didn't. They did no KYC, no AML. They didn't review the content of the call. And now, good luck trying to find the person who perpetrated that scam, because who knows where they are. I'm sure they've opened up several other companies by now and perpetrated several other scams.
Oh yeah.
So the problem is obvious, but yeah, where is the willpower? And lobbyists can be a good thing. They can be a bad thing, because if they're protecting activity that hurts all Americans, maybe we need to come up with a new solution.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been thinking about Federal, like, what could we build? What kind of AI could we build to try to just stop these phone calls? You know what I mean? Like, or to give elderly
phone calls, but it's chats, it's the text.
Yeah, it's all the above. Yeah.
I think those have have risen dramatically, in the
Probably.
emails. And so, I mean, there's so many other ways to get into people because
Yeah.
nobody answers well, I can't say that. I don't think the majority of people answer their phones unless they know who's calling. I know I certainly
Yeah.
don't.
Right.
If somebody needs to reach me, they'll leave me a
Right.
voice message.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they just
I
assume
mean,
it's a scam.
I think you're 100% right. I will not pick up a phone call unless there's a name attached that I know. But every once in a while, like if I'm expecting a call back from a mechanic or a plumber
Oh,
or
sure.
electrician,
Oh, sure.
and it has like your local area code, you'll pick it up.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
if we're concerned about national security and we're concerned about protecting our seniors, that's where the problem really is. So that's where our focus should be.
Well, I'm going to tell you a couple of things here. I talked to a man last week who's in Africa who was a trafficking victim and forced to do scams from over in Southeast Asia. And
Mm,
he told me that when they were training him, they told him that anybody 20 or over are fair game. So,
interesting.
so I don't want anybody to think that it's the little old lady sitting in the rocking
Right.
chair in the assisted living, because then that gives everybody else a false sense of security. Like it's
Yeah.
not going to happen to me. I mean, it could happen to you, Paul.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I
Uh,
get attacked every day. I mean, I
yeah.
get,
So, but it's not. They attack you not on your best day.
yeah.
They
I
attack
mean, we have,
when
yeah.
you're
And like,
distracted.
so my family and we have a code word
Right.
between each other so that like if I get a phone call that sounds like my son or my daughter or my wife, um, I can ask for that code word. And if the scammer can't, create that or the AI can't generate it
Right.
because they don't know what it is,
And I
then I
think
know
that's
it's BS. But I think everybody should have that kind of discussion with their family.
yep.
And I think everybody needs to rely on their family members that they have them accessible. Because yeah, it takes a group effort, it takes a village to try and fix these things. Um, and it's something that we're all going to have to live with for some time. I don't think we can develop solutions as fast as fraudsters could develop new ideas of perpetrating fraud. So, um, and that's, honestly, that's why we thought that we needed to start doing these calls in the first place, was because these people didn't have anybody else in their life stopping the transaction. If they got all the way to us without anybody intervening, like what the heck is going on?
Mm.
And we thought the live phone call was the best way to do that, because it's being able to pick up that sense of confusion or urgency or fear in the voice
Mhm.
is super valuable to trying to figure out whether this person is really being scammed or not.
Well, and the way that I look at it is if somebody wants to pay those outrageous fees and it's their decision 100%, then I'm all for it. Go ahead and use
Yeah.
it. But if for
Oh,
any other reason,
I
if they
will.
have been coached for any
Yeah.
reason
Yeah.
to go in
Exactly.
front of that machine, those are the people who should be stopped. I don't care what they say,
Yeah.
because you can't pay the FBI in Bitcoin. You can't pay the computer tech scam in Bitcoin. You can't
Right.
pay. Nobody takes
Right.
that as payment. No legitimate company takes that as payment. So
Well,
if
I wouldn't go that far, but there are legitimate companies that do accept Bitcoin payments here in
well,
the United States. I mean,
okay.
Steak and Shake is one of them.
So if somebody directed you to that machine, you should not be using it.
I
If
agree
you looked at
100%.
it on your own or you looked it up and you want to buy
Yeah.
Bitcoin
Yeah.
and you're doing this of your own free will, then
That's the best advice ever.
any other reason is not
That's
legitimate.
right. That's 100% true. If somebody sent you to the ATM, there's something going on.
So
And it should be driven exclusively from your own desire to own Bitcoin for yourself.
yeah.
So we're in 100% agreement. I want to add one little thing.
Yes, absolutely. Tell us.
The 20% fee.
Usually that fluctuates depending on.
Oh, yeah, certain states
Yeah.
we can do more, certain states we do less. It depends. But the important thing to understand is that that's what it requires to actually make money in this business, because we have physical kiosks that we build, we rent, we have to pay the host a rent. We have to pay Garda, Brinks, or Loomis, security to go pick up the cash and transport it. And then we have very high banking fees because they have to handle all the cash. We have our compliance department. We have all our logistics people. We have installers, maintainers. We deliver all those all those machines ourselves. We go service them ourselves, et cetera. So at the end of the day, that 20% fee makes us have about a 3% net profit. So it's not like we're printing cash, right? Like a 20% interest rate on a credit card, they get to keep like 80% of that revenue. We're keeping a very small percentage. So at the end of the day, anybody could go look up Bitcoin Depot's financials. They can see how much money they were making, and they were like 5x the size of us. They're huge, bigger than that, almost 10x, but very much like as big as they get, the biggest in the United States, and their profits were very, very small. So
their CEO was making $1 million a year base.
that was
That's not small to me.
Egregious. That's not small to me. That's not small to me. I wish it was small to me. No, but yeah, no, we make about 3% after all the expenses. So it's not. It does sound like a lot, and I agree. It sounds like a lot, but it's what we have to charge in order to make these services.
Again, for anybody who wants to do that completely of their own free will.
Yep.
Well, that's understandable.
And those are the people who want
pointed your direction. That's the ones that,
yeah.
If they were defrauded, just one last question, would you refund at least the fee?
Yes.
Can't refund.
Yeah. We do that. We will refund the fee. And every state has got different, rules or regulations. In some states, we actually, if you get to the point where you've made a transaction with us, sometimes there's a hold period also, where sometimes it's 3 days. We've seen it up to as long as 14 days. Every state is different. And that hold period is meant to be that time for you to go, oh, wait a minute. I think that was a scam. And then we haven't released the Bitcoin. We've held it back. Yeah, we've held it back. And we don't have problems with that kind of legislation, but we do have a problem where you take a scam and then you make us refund the Bitcoin, refund the fees, and now it becomes twice the size of the original scam, and now it's on us.
Yeah.
Which is why we want to have these protocols put into law, so that we all agree on that if you're doing this much work up front to prevent fraud, that you shouldn't have to do that refund. And that if we could come to an agreement like that, I think you'd have the only people left in our industry would be the legitimate operators. Right. And that's what you want. That's what everybody wants.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on this this program. It's been enlightening, and I believe somewhat that you're trying to do the right thing. There are, I just don't know how we can stop all the people standing in front of the kiosks from being scams. That's what's the hardest for me, because I know it's still going to happen. I don't believe that if we took all the kiosks away, that scams would stop. I don't believe that.
No, they won't. Yeah, they won't.
They'll just go to a different direction. But I hope that you're really doing what you're saying you're doing.
We are
trying as much as you can to stop the scams. And I would put that age limit down to at least 50, because, the 50 to 59-year-olds, they're getting just as much.
We'll take it into consideration. It's a good point. Yeah. Well, anyway, I appreciate you taking the time to listen to us and giving us a venue to share our story. I highly recommend people just visit Byte Federal Fraud Prevention, at least to get an alternative view at the data.
Put that link in the show notes.
I appreciate it. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay. You have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Mel. You too.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So the question is, did he change my mind? More importantly, did he change yours? At the end, I was not persuaded. Not on the core issues anyway. Paul made a genuinely compelling case that Byte Federal is doing more than a lot of operators in this space. Live phone calls for anyone over 60, on-screen fraud warnings, wallet blocking, an 84% intervention rate on flagged transactions. I'll give him that. Some of these protocols are more than the law currently requires. But here's what I just can't get past. Paul claims that his core customer base are the unbanked and underbanked, the people who don't have enough money to have a bank account, but he states they use small, repeat Bitcoin purchases to build savings they wouldn't otherwise be able to access. I just don't see it. As I think about to the time when I was raising my two sons on a single mom's income, I wasn't able to save anything during those years. Granted, there was no crypto at the time, but when I was struggling, saving money was among the least of my worries. I also don't see how you can build a business model targeting those with the least to offer in this country and making that into a profitable business. I haven't heard any independent reports to verify this claim. It's just not supported by the data. I went and looked at the FDIC's own national survey of unbanked and underbanked households, and it says that crypto usage is actually more common among the banked households than unbanked ones. That only 1.2% of unbanked and underbanked households use crypto at all, compared to 5% of banked households. The FDIC also reports that the unbanked and underbanked households use Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App versus paying a 20% markup at the crypto ATMs. So between that story and the FDIC data and everything else I've learned about covering scams for over a year now, I just don't believe that the primary customer standing in front of these machines is a low-income person adding $50 of crypto every week. Even further, I don't believe you can build a profitable business using this model. I think it's far more likely to be someone in the middle of a scam, standing there scared, confused, and being coached. Paul gets credit for trying. Byte Federal's protocols are more than most, but more than most, to me, just isn't good enough. People don't go shopping for particular Bitcoin ATM machines. They use the ones closest to their home. I still believe that the people being scammed are this industry's biggest customers. And until somebody shows me different, that's what I'll believe. Thank you for listening. I'll see you next time on the Romance Scam Rebellion.